Hello everyone, it is the middle of October, which means it is peak spooky season. So in today's reading vlog, in order to get in the Halloween spirit, I'm only going to be reading thrillers, horrors, mysteries, psychological things, paranormal books. I'm just picturing the Conjuring house. That's why both of these can be a good option next. It was so fun and just unserious. I am absolutely flabbergasted. I currently have 3 that I've been itching to pick up, but we'll see what I end up reading because I'm definitely a mood reader and these could change. I would definitely not be surprised if I got to Play Nice by Rachel Harrison. This is a paranormal horror, I believe, and I'm pretty sure there's a haunted house. It's also really short and sweet, so I think I can get through this one really fast. I've heard great reviews about this book and people are describing it as like an HGTV paranormal horror, which is definitely right up my alley, so I'm very intrigued about this one. Tourist Season by Brynne just recently came out. She's the author that wrote the Butcher and Blackbird trilogy, which I did not read, but this is her first book in a new trilogy. I believe this is the same vibe as their other ones where there's like a murder mystery, there's a killer, but it's also like a romance, which is definitely very fitting for this time of year, so I'm really excited to get into this one. I've been seeing The Mad Wife by Meagan all over recently, but I haven't heard anyone actually talk about what it's about or if they liked it or not. But I believe this one's like a domestic psychological book, so I'm not really sure if this is like a thriller or anything, but I think it is a little bit creepy, and since it has that like psychological thing going on, I think it is very fitting for the season. So these are the 3 that are currently on my radar, but we'll see what we actually get into, and I will talk to you when I start my first book. Decided I'm gonna start with Play Nice by Rachel Harrison because I really think I can read this pretty quickly, and also it is on the Spotify like audiobooks, and I think I might actually really like it as an audiobook. So this will be the first book that I get into, but I got my Aardvark monthly book picks in for October, so I wanted to show you what I got because there's actually a few good contenders because I can just never stick to what I say I'm gonna read, so all of these could be possible contenders, I guess. I did get Coffin Moon by Keith Rawson. This is like a vampire book. I think his whole family gets murdered by this vampire, and then him and his niece end up going out and hunting for this vampire, so it's like hunter hunted. I think it's considered a horror. And then I felt the FOMO and I got Mate by Ella Hazelwood. I did not really enjoy Bride. I know that's a very unpopular opinion. It just was not for me. The romance didn't really feel like it was for me. I think maybe now that I'm getting more into like the vampires and darker type of books like that maybe if I reread it now I would like it a little bit more. But I think just because it was such a different type of book that Ella Hazelwood came out with that I was kind of taken aback, even though I knew what I was going in for. I don't know. Unpopular opinion, but like if we're talking about like Twilight vibe, werewolf versus vampire, I'm more of a werewolf girly. I'm not saying I'm team Jacob over team Edward. I do enjoy a werewolf, so I think I might really like this. And then I got Party of Liars by Kelsey Cox. This is a thriller that I've been wanting for a while now, and I was so excited when I saw Aardvark had it because I've just been like meaning to purchase this and it just keeps getting like pushed off and pushed off. But I've heard this related to or like have similar vibes to The Hunting Wives because I think it's more of a domestic thriller, rich people drama, and I love rich people drama, you know? I don't know, the reviews that I've seen for this book have been pretty positive, and it's pretty short and sweet, and I love a good short and sweet thriller for this time of year. I am so excited about this. into this like a speed demon. I've been doing a lot of things around the house and I'm now already somehow 42% of the way in. I'm literally about halfway, so I think I might be able to finish this tonight. Before that ended up happening, I need to tell you my first impressions and also a little bit more about what it's about. We're following the main character Cleo, who is an influencer and she works in fashion, and she's not a very likable character, which is normal for thrillers. And I know you hear influencer and you're like, ugh, but it's really not talked about in great detail, but that's just a little bit backstory on her. She finds out really early on in the, beginning of the story that her mom has suddenly passed away, and she's really not too affected by this because her and her sisters haven't really been close with their mom for a long time. There was a lot of childhood trauma that had happened when they were little, and so they are much closer with their dad, and when they were younger, their dad and their mom, got divorced and everything. So when they got divorced, all the siblings went to live with their mom, and their mom didn't really have much money to buy a new house. So the house that they ended up buying was definitely a fixer-upper, very old, and that's where they lived. And her mom actually was a little bit like famous for a little while because she wrote a memoir about this house because she was convinced that this house was haunted and that there was like a devil in the house, and really no one else like ever believed her. Her sisters never believed her, her dad never believed her. So at the funeral or the celebration of life, they basically find out that now that her mom has passed away, the owner of the property is going to be the eldest sister. But the eldest sister really doesn't want much to do with it, and because Cleo is an influencer and I guess she recently saw one of her friends basically like renovate a house and sell it for a lot of money, and she wants to get into the Airbnb business, she's like, you know what, I'm going to take this head on. I have the money to do it. We're gonna flip this house. I'm gonna be the leader in the project and we can sell it for a lot of money. So that's basically like the setup of the story, is that she's going back to this house that she lived in when she was little, that she doesn't really remember too much about. She doesn't have a lot of memories there. I don't know if it's just been kind of blocked by trauma or because of something else, but now she's spending a lot of time in this house fixing it up and getting it ready to sell. What I think is really cool is that she has not actually read her mom's book that she wrote about the house because her dad has always said do not read the book, and she really didn't want anything to do with it anyway. When she goes back to the house for the first time in however many years since Cleo moved out, she finds a copy of the book on the nightstand, and it's like half put together, like half the pages are written out, and there's a little like note in there from her mom. And so she starts reading the book, and when she starts reading the book is when things in the house start happening. So that's really like where we're at right now. I'm not too far into like her home renovation job. We're kind of just getting into where she's starting to like little things are starting to happen, things are misplaced. But what I really like, especially with the audiobook, is because there's mixed media, and I think that makes for the best audiobook is when there's mixed media, some like newsletters, podcasting elements, anything of that sort. And so when she is getting like clippings from her mom's book, it's in a different narrator's voice. We see like some of the annotations in the actual book. So that part of it I'm really liking. It's got that bingeability aspect to it that I just love in a thriller. I think this is considered like a horror. It's really giving me We Used to Live Here vibes. I read that book a few years, maybe 2 years ago, and I actually like didn't read it physically. I listened to the audiobook, which I really enjoyed because it had that mixed media element. It's like this paranormal, like creepy house vibe, kind of like this. That one really lost me, especially towards the end. It definitely leaves it up for interpretation, which some people love, but I'm just not one of those people that love that. What I was missing from We Used to Live Here, I feel like I'm getting in this book, but I don't want to talk too soon because obviously I'm only halfway done and it could definitely leave on a cliffhanger like We Used to Live Here did. I will say they do describe what the house looks like, her old bedroom and everything, but I'm just like, that's going right over my head because I'm just picturing the Conjuring house, as one does. If all goes to plan, I think I might be able to finish this tonight. I'm gonna quit talking and I'm gonna get back to reading. The next morning, and I did end up finishing Play Nice last night, but I didn't update you guys last night because I was like, you know what, I'm gonna set my thoughts a little bit because I think I would have been harsher last night if I would have like rated it and reviewed it right after finishing it. Because now that I've sat in my thoughts, I really did enjoy this. I guess the last half just wasn't what I was expecting because I was very unsatisfied with the ending, and I felt like the last half, like nothing really happened. It definitely did do a good job of being paranormal and creepy and like having that horror aspect. There was really nothing that like happened, and if you're looking for a book that has a lot of twists and turns, things that you aren't expecting, this is not the book for you because there really wasn't anything that took me by surprise. I think also it's not like your typical thriller horror where you're just basically following the horror story. There are a lot of talk about her family and how she grew up and the different dynamics between her and her sisters versus her sisters and her dad, and like growing up being the youngest child, and you know, your siblings are older than you, they understand more than you, and just that relationship, that sibling dynamic. You actually do dive into that a bit more than what I was expecting. I will say I didn't really like our main character. She was, I don't know, I didn't really like her personality. I felt like she was very entitled, and you do get a little bit of romance in here, but it's not super developed. Like you start developing things and then it just kind of falls off a little bit. I've heard that some people are saying they left it open to interpretation to kind of, you know, maybe have a sequel in the future, but I wouldn't even really want a sequel, honestly. I think if this would have just wrapped up better, I would have been more satisfied. So I think I'm gonna settle on a 3-star for this book. It was so bingeable, like I literally read it in 3 hours, and I really enjoyed the audiobook, but then just like nothing was happening, and then nothing was like taking me by surprise. I feel like there was so much opportunity to switch things up a little bit, but exactly what you think is happening or going to happen does end up happening, which isn't my favorite kind of book. I was reading some reviews and everything, and it seems like a lot of people really enjoyed this book. So don't take what I say and be like, okay, no, I'm definitely not reading it. Definitely give it a try for yourself, because I could just be kind of standing on my own over here. But I'm between 2 books for what I'm gonna start next. I'm just so intrigued for Mate by Ellie Hazelwood, and then I also really would like to read Taurus Season. I feel like both of these are very much giving the vibe that I want to give around this time of year. This one is a little bit more Halloween-ish, I guess, because I think we're following like a serial killer around this time of year, and there's like a romance involved. And then obviously this one is following werewolves and vampires and all of that fun stuff. I feel like I want to go into something that's not a thriller, since I just read a thriller and I have a few more of them kind of on my TBR, so I'd like to switch up the genres each time, so that's why both of these can be a good option next. I started Taurus Season last night at work. I only got like 50 pages in, but I thought I would give you some first impressions while I do my slick back. I'm just getting ready to do a workout, and I got work again tonight. I think I'm gonna have a really fun time with this one. I don't think it's gonna be anything too serious, because there's some like serious things going on, because they're literally like, the main female character is a serial killer, and the guy is basically trying to like hunt her down for revenge. We're not really sure exactly the situation, and I don't know if it really says it in the blurb, so I don't want to spoil anything, but basically the female main character is kind of like a Dexter. Like she goes around and kills people that deserve to be killed, and it's, at least so far, it's seemingly mostly men that do, you know, some bad things, and so I can appreciate that. She talks a little bit like in detail about like how she kills and what she does with the body parts and all of that, but it's nothing too gross or like, I don't know, if you have a weak stomach, like it's nothing that you're gonna be like grossed out about, I don't think. The main male character, we meet him when he like goes to the town that she's living in. He's basically trying to hunt her down for something that happened earlier on in his life, and he's kind of been like tracking her down for a while and wants to kill her for revenge. And they kind of have a little meet cute, and he doesn't know who she is at that moment until she says her name, and it's just unserious. Like, it's a fun time, it's unserious. I'm sure it's gonna be like an enemies to lovers type of thing. Like, obviously he wants to kill her for whatever reason, but I don't think that's gonna happen. They'll probably end up falling in love. I really like Brynne Weaver's writing. Is it in first person? Yeah, it is in first person, and we get both the MMC and FMC point of view, so it's dual POV. POV, first person, but they also like talk to the reader, which is a really interesting way of writing books. I know I've read a few books like that, and I always really enjoy it for the most part if it's done correctly. The FMC, Harper actually takes care of this older man named Arthur who has Alzheimer's, and so we learn a little bit about that. And then she also has one of her like guy best friends, so I think I'm going to really enjoy that relationship. And then obviously we're learning little bits and pieces about Nolan, and we're getting like kind of little flashbacks from like earlier on in his life, something that has happened, which obviously is the driving force of revenge. So I think this is just going to be a really fun time. I think I'm reading it at the perfect time as well, because Halloween is literally next week, like when I'm filming this, and so there really isn't a better time I think for me to read this. And I'm not really looking for a super serious like crazy read right now, so I'm having a really fun time. Like it's literally like Dexter meets the Mindfuck series a little bit. But yeah, that's my first impressions. I'm really enjoying it. I don't think it's anything super duper groundbreaking, but I'm having a fun time. Jump scare. I worked night shift last night, so I've just kind of been being lazy today. I did my workout at least, just took an everything shower. I've been reading on and off. And I do have some quick updates about tourist season. I am about halfway, I would say, page 190. I think there's like 350 pages maybe. And this book is just so unserious. There are so many things in here that are happening that are just like, and there is a lot of miscommunication. Like if they just like talked about what happened in the past, we wouldn't even have this thing, like this tension and like him even wanting revenge. Like we wouldn't even really need that if we would just communicate. But because it's so unserious and like it's meant to be that way, I'm kind of just letting it slide and I'm just having a fun time. If you've read Lights Out, which is like a dark romance, I guess, the characters in this book kind of remind me or like give me the same vibes as the characters in that book, but I'm actually enjoying what's going on in here and the plot and everything, because I didn't really enjoy Lights Out very much, but it's really giving me like Mindfuck series, Lights Out, and Dexter vibes. So I'm really hoping that I can get a good amount of this done tonight, because I have more reading plans than just this, and I feel like this is one of the books that you can just binge. One example as to how unserious this is that obviously, like I said, he wants revenge on something that happened, and so he does want to kill her. That is why he came to the town that she's living in. He's been stalking her and hunting her down, and he makes it known to her that he wants to kill her. But there's some leverage going on, something that she kind of has hanging over him, so that's why he hasn't like killed her. But he's also extremely attracted to her from the beginning. Like he thinks that she's hot right away. There's a lot of tension right away. And you know, we do act on that tension. If you hate this person that much because they did something so terribly to you and your family, even if you think that they're a good looking person, you wouldn't want to act on anything. And I don't even think you'd have those romantic feelings in the first place. So already I can just tell that what he thinks that she has done is not the actual full truth, but we haven't really uncovered what the full truth is. We know that she's somehow related to this past situation, but we don't know exactly how involved she was. But again, here we go with the miscommunication. He brings it up multiple times, and instead of just shutting it down and saying, no, you have it all wrong, this is what happened, she doesn't, and she just like moves on and like changes topics. So anyway, it's like 4:45 right now. I'm gonna spend some time reading, and I'm currently filming this on a Friday night, which means it's Great British Baking Show night, so I do have some plans to make some dessert later, so I don't think I'll really read too much tonight because we have other priorities. But until then, I'm gonna try to read as much as I can. And also I'll probably listen to the audiobooks. It is on Spotify while I'm making the dessert. That sounds really awesome. If you're wondering, I think I'm gonna make at home apple cinnamon toaster strudels. I'm not gonna go the full route and try to make the puff pastry by myself. I did buy the store-bought already pre-made puff pastry, because if there's one thing I'm not gonna make, it's puff pastry. Okay, I do love a homemade dessert, and it's pretty much halfway there. You know, I do have to say, this is like the perfect day to read this book. It is gloomy and rainy and stormy. It's cold out. It's like 45 degrees. I'm just having a great time. I'm just vibing out. It's my first day off after working a stretch of night shifts. I'm gonna sip on my drink. This is, if you have Wegmans near you, I really love these Wonder Pops. They're kind of like an Ollie Pop, but just Wegmans brand. And this is the strawberry cream flavor. It's pretty good, you know me, and I love a good fun drink. All right, I'm ready to get back into reading. Are literally purple. Well, I did finish Taurus season. That's what I was reading. Yeah. I really enjoyed the last little bit because we get a big reveal at the end, which kind of sets up, I think, like what's going to be going on in the next book in the trilogy. It was something that I really didn't see coming or didn't expect. We have the major plot, right? But then we have this other mystery element, and then we have kind of this third mystery element. That's kind of like we got a little bit of a snippet of answers as far as that goes at the very, very end. I could see in the next book us following the same couple, but I could also see us following a different person, which I'm hoping is like the person at the end that we get the reveal from. I just think it was fun. Like, I keep saying this over and over, but it was so fun and just unserious. I feel like I could just turn my brain off and just have a good time. A lot of smut scenes, and it definitely like teeters on like your dark romance a little bit. I think I'm gonna give it like a 3.5 star, because a 4 star for me is something that like I really enjoyed, and a 3 star is something that was like mid. At least that's how I rate books. So I think it was like a 3.5 star, because I think it's a good setup for the series. I liked a lot of the things that were going on. There were a few things where I'm like, okay, not a groundbreaking book. Like, it's just a fun time. You know what I mean? Let me know what you guys thought of Taurus season if you've read it. It has really high ratings on Goodreads. Like, I think like a 4.5 or something like that. Something crazy. Definitely reminded me of Lights Out, especially listen to the audiobook with the MMC. But it also gives like the Dexter vibe and the Mindfuck series vibe, which I love. It's set in Maine, in like a small town in Maine, so like right on the water, and I think that's such a cool Halloween-y, spooky type setting too, so I really enjoyed that. Definitely gonna be reading the next books that come out in the series. I think the next one comes out a year from now. This morning I started The Mad Wife, which I definitely chose my outfit to match, which I'm not ashamed about. You know, sometimes I just like to do that, especially if I have clothes that I'm like, ooh, that would look really good with my book. I read the prologue and then the first chapter, so I'm like a little over 20 pages in, so I don't really have any first impressions. I also don't really know what it's about. The only thing that I read on the back, something about, is she insane or is it survival? Like something like that. I'm going to assume that something's going on with the wife. What I do enjoy so far is that it is first person POV. And a lot of domestic books or like the psychological thrillers, I think it's normally third person POV, because a lot of the time you have an unreliable narrator. So I feel like she can't be as unreliable as in other psychological thrillers. So I'm really intrigued by it. It already has a really good pacing and writing style, I feel like. Hoping to get in a good amount of that today, but I am currently driving to have some brunch with a friend, one of my favorite coffee shops. It's just so vibey and moody. I've been here now like 3 times in the past, I don't know, month or 2. They have a really good pumpkin spice latte. Their breakfast is really good. They also have wood fire pizzas, which I would like to try at some point. They also have this giant La Marzocca, and I feel like if you walk into a coffee shop and that's the espresso machine that they have, you know you're gonna get a good coffee. I don't really have any other great plans today, so that's why I'm hoping to get in a lot of reading and wrap this up. Let's go to the coffee shop. I don't even know if you can hear me because it is so windy and cold, but I'm taking Tarzan on a walk, his daily walk, and a little mental health walk as well. But I was so excited because I really thought that Spotify had The Mad Wife as an audiobook, but they don't. I'm so sad because I think I'm like 62 pages in and I'm so intrigued by this book. I really didn't know much about it, but I'm really loving it so far. More on that later, but we're gonna finish this walk up quick so I can get back to reading. The entire rest of this book, I thought it would probably be good to tell you what it's about because I am pretty much halfway. I'm on page 130 out of exactly 300 pages I just checked. This is unlike any other book I think I've ever read. One, because of the time period. It's set in the 1950s, which is the coolest thing to read about, and it just brings me back to like watching old TV shows and movies set in that time, but I don't think I've really read any books set in that time. We have the main character, Lulu, who is a stay-at-home mom. She lives with her husband and now she has 2 children, and we get some flashbacks of her childhood. There's some things that have gone on there that she has some trauma from. Her dad died when she was younger and she doesn't really have a great relationship with her mom. And so she lives in this cul-de-sac. It's very like 1950s. I can picture it so well exactly what all the houses would look like because on this street, I guess like the same builder built all the houses. So they all like the layout's the same of everyone. So she's kind of a part of a mom friend group in the street. All the kids play together. But Lulu is a little bit strange. And we are, like I said, in first person POV. So we are hearing her thoughts, and she struggles a lot with postpartum, I think, postpartum depression. It's not really said that she has postpartum depression, but just kind of the way that she's acting and just things that have gone on, like it seems to be like that. And you know, she is very different from a lot of the other moms in her friend group. A lot of the other moms don't really talk about the struggles of motherhood. They try to act like everything's all perfect. They like lay out their day-to-day schedule, like Monday they do cleaning, Tuesday they do laundry, and you know what's expected of you as a housewife. And they kind of try to paint this picture that everything's always perfect and always great. And even though they are friends, they don't really talk about the nitty-gritty and really show a lot of emotion. And so Lulu is really struggling and she doesn't really have anyone to talk to. The house across the street went up for sale. She really wants that house. Like, she is obsessed with that house. I guess it has a bigger backyard, and like she is just envisioning herself in this house once it goes up for sale. And I guess it's had multiple owners, and it seems kind of like she was saying like the house takes the soul out of you, because even though she wants to live in that house because she likes the yard and she's just like fantasizing about it, she's also like, obviously there's something wrong with this house because it's had so many owners and they're all making excuses as to why they have to sell the house, whether they lose their jobs or other life situations end up coming up. One day a family finally moves in across the street and she is automatically skeptical of the wife named Bitsy. she's just not acting how she thinks that she should act. She's just kind of an odd woman and does some weird things, you know, like she'll wake up in the middle of the night and the lights on across the street, and she's like, don't you know, like if you're creeping around at night, like you don't turn your lights on so they can't see you. She sees this weird situation where Bitsy's standing in the window and her husband comes in and like pulls her away, and just like Bitsy's mannerisms, the way she talks, how she's kind of treating her children is just like raises red flags to Lulu. And so Lulu becomes kind of obsessed with Bitsy, and not in like a way that she wants to be Bitsy, but she just thinks that like something's wrong with her. So nothing in particular has happened yet, but I'm just so curious to see what's going to happen, because I have a feeling there's gonna be like a big twist in this book, like something that I'm not seeing coming, but I'm like, okay, is there really gonna be something wrong with Bitsy, or is it really gonna be something wrong with Lulu, or is it gonna be something like totally that I'm not even thinking of? And I think it's really interesting because, like I said, with, you know, thrillers and stuff, it's usually in third person POV, so you have an unreliable character, but we are in first person POV. And so you can still have an unreliable character in first person POV. It's just like a little bit harder because you're taking everything that they're thinking and saying as fact. So we are seeing things through Lulu's eyes only. Does that make any sense? I'm just really loving the vibe of this book and the pacing. Like I said, I'm almost halfway through and it's only 300 pages. So I can see myself really just flying through the rest of this, because it weaves domestic drama with psychological suspense so immersive you don't want to put it down. And I could definitely see that. Like, I'm like, is Lulu going mad? Is she the mad wife, or is Bitsy the mad wife? Like, I don't know how to feel. But I also think that that's probably the point. Thought I would update you before I complete this, because I think I will be completing this very, very, very soon. And yeah, I have never read a book like this, and I am thoroughly, thoroughly enjoying it. I'm just having the best week of spooky reads. When I read what just happened, I am absolutely flabbergasted. I did not think that was gonna happen. Don't mind the bed situation. I'm washing all my sheets and everything, but I'm on part 2, which is page like 226-ish, so I don't really have too much left. And if there are any more twists and turns as to like what just happened, I was not expecting it. And it honestly, like everything, not everything, but like some things that I previously said this story is about, and like, yeah, I guess what the story is about, like, no, it's not. That's all I can say, because it's too good of a twist to even give a smidge away. Literally anything can happen in the next, 70 pages. I don't think I'm prepared or I'm ready, but we're gonna finish this right here, right now. So I'll come back with my final thoughts and opinions, because there's nothing going on up there right now. Okay, I was able to process this a little bit more, especially after reading the author's note. I encourage you, if you read this book and you're a little bit unsure if, like, even at the end, if you're reading what the truth is, read the author's note, because it really puts into perspective exactly what was going on. Because at the end, without reading the author's note, I was still kind of like, am I being lied to? What's the situation? But it honestly helped me figure out everything. And I really enjoyed the author's note. Like, this is way more than just a psychological thriller. There are so many deeper hidden messages in here that I can't really speak about too much, because it really gives away the entire last part of this book. Because, like, you start this book thinking that, I guess it's gonna be just, you know, a crazy woman or women, ends up being something that you just don't think it will ever be. And I can't really say anything more than that. What I will say is that the things that are discussed in here are very with the times of the 1950s. And it's an era that I'm really not too familiar with. And it's very intriguing to maybe do a little bit more research and read up a little bit more on what was going on around that time. I know I talked a lot about how this is your typical male-female gender role in a marriage during that time, and that is very 1950s, but there are other things in this book that are also very 1950s in a completely different way. It's a topic of importance that I haven't read in a book before, that I think is just super interesting to be discussed about. So with that said, I thought I was going to be reading a completely different book than I actually read, and I kind of really loved that because this book didn't just take me by surprise because there were crazy twists. This could really happen in real life, is what I'll say, and I wasn't expecting that to be the case. I would have never expected what the last 25 pages held, but it all makes a lot of sense, and it makes me want to do a little bit more research into, like I said, things that were going on during this time. It really shows the resiliency of women and everything that women have to go through and have had to go through, specifically during this time period, and I just think it was the coolest concept. Like nothing I've read before, like I've said a bajillion times, and that's one of my favorite things about reading, is one, reading things that you've never read before, but two, unknowingly educating yourself and learning, but it doesn't feel like learning because you're reading and you're having a good time doing it. I really enjoyed this. I think I'm gonna give this 4.25 stars. I'm not sure, it's kind of probably around that. I can definitely see why this is Barnes & Noble's monthly pick, why it's a lot of book club picks of the month. Like I can just see there being so much discussion to be had in this book, and it's so hard because I don't want to give you guys any spoilers, so I can't really discuss what I want to discuss. It is just, there's so many layers and just so many things to talk about. I think there are discussion questions at the end that I'm gonna read through. It's a conversation with the author, so I definitely want to read that and just, I don't know, geek out a little bit. This is definitely one of those books where you read and then you want to go do a deep dive into topics that were discussed, reviews, the author may be talking about and doing an interview about this book, and that's one of my favorite things, and that's how I know that I liked a book, is when I don't want to just close the book and be done with it. I want to do research and I want to talk about this book more and see other people talk about it, especially the author. So wow, I really loved this. It was a bit of a surprise. I talked about all of the other 1950s things going on in here, but I thought an honorable mention is kind of the one thing that comes to mind when I think of this book now, is this specific type of woman that's on the cover with a jello salad. The main female character, her thing is making jello salads, and if that's not the most 1950s thing ever, I don't know what is. So every time I picture this book and this character, that's exactly what I think of, and that's just a little snippet into all the different 1950s things that the author puts into this book. Obviously, like I've said before, they talk about the house and the roles of women and all of that, but the jello salad and her just making these jello salads for her friends to come over, for her husband's work people to come over, just for dessert in general, and how she's perfected these jello salads. Honestly, one of my favorite things about the book. So let's do a quick wrap up of what I read in this video, because I read 3 books. I started off the video with reading Play Nice, which I literally binged in one day, and for good reason. It's super short and sweet, fast chapters, quick paced, paranormal horror vibes, which I really liked. I really liked this author's writing, but the ending, as I said, wasn't really my favorite, and I could see them wanting to extend this and maybe do a sequel because the ending wasn't really wrapped up in a nice little bow. I think I gave this one a 3-star. If I didn't give it a 3-star, that's kind of my final rating that I'm landing on. But it was a really fun time and definitely a spooky vibe that goes so well with this video. And then Taurus Season by Brynne Weaver, the first book in her Ruinous Love trilogy. This definitely makes me want to read Butcher and Blackbird because I had such a fun time with this one. I think that there was just so much miscommunication, and that's kind of the one thing that brought it down for me, but everything else in this book I really loved. I did love the romance. I loved the multiple plot lines that we had going on and the multiple little mysteries. If we didn't have so much miscommunication, this would probably be rated higher, but I think I'm going to settle on a 4-star for this one, which I think is still a really good rating, and I'm super excited. The next book in this series, obviously you have to wait a full year for the next one, which is fine. It'll be perfect around Halloween time. But I'm very intrigued to see what the next book is going to bring. Are we following the same characters? Is it going to be a new couple that we're following? I don't know. I'm very, very excited. So that was everything that I read in today's reading vlog. Let me know if you've read any of these and what you're reading around Halloween spooky season to get yourself in the Halloween mood. Stay tuned for my next little reading vlog because it is going to be strictly Halloween themed and I couldn't be more excited. But this was kind of a little spooky taste, dipping my toes in the water of some spooky books for the Halloween time. So make sure you subscribe if you aren't already. I'll have everywhere else that you can find me on the internet in the description, and I will see you next time. Bye.